Straight ahead, a Middle Tennessee community mourns the loss of a man who lived to help others. And police want to know why a 3-year-old boy was left in a van overnight. The news is now.
From your news and information leader. This is News Channel 5 at 10.
Good evening, I'm Nick Barris. Thanks so much for joining us. Folks in Smith County are remembering a hero tonight. Fire Chief Ed Stallings died this morning. Officials say he never fully recovered from injuries suffered when the roof of a burning church collapsed on him. News Channel 5's LaCheryl Tucker went to Carthage, where Stallings spent his life helping others.
I heard it before I left town and hoped that it was just rumor.
Shortly before 7 o'clock Sunday morning, emergency crews throughout Smith County received a call no one wanted to hear.
The broadcast was at CD 98, which was his ID number, was 107, which means out of service. Just bad news.
The death of Carthage Fire Chief Ed Stallings spread quickly throughout the community. Outside City Hall, the flag flies at half-staff. Stallings' longtime friend only wants to remember the good times.
He was always smiling when we had a meeting. Of course, he knew everybody by name. We're a small department, but he, not just by name, but he knew all of us, and he knew what was important to us.
It was back in April when the city's fire chief and 2 other firefighters were injured when the roof of a burning church collapsed on top of them. No one saw it coming.
Just one of those freak things. You don't expect it. Once you get outside the building, you feel reasonably safe. But in this case, it didn't work that way.
Even at the tender age of 71, Stallings answered every fire call that came in.
He loved it. There's no doubt he loved it.
Stallings not only made a difference in the community, but also to everyone who knew him.
Just being a good friend. If you need to go talk to him, you can always talk with him.
For about 50 years, Stallings served on the fire department. It was a job he could not give up, at least not willingly.
It's a hazardous job. Any way you look at it, it's a hazardous job. And in this case, we paid the price for it.
LaCheryl Tucker, News Channel 5.
A benefit fund is set up at the Citizens Bank in Carthage. The money raised will go to the firefighters who received injuries during that church fire. Metro Police want to know why a 3-year-old boy was left in a minivan while his father was allegedly out drinking. As News Channel 5's Alex Cabrero tells us, the van was towed away with the toddler asleep inside.
Ricky Palacios probably had no idea why so many police officers were around him. But at the age of 3, he probably doesn't understand why his daddy is in trouble.
My father was arrested for child neglect for leaving the child in the vehicle.
And not just leaving him there, but then going out for a night of drinking with his friends. But Luis Palacios also did something else wrong. He parked his van at an apartment complex he didn't live in. So the van was towed.
And the child was asleep on the back seat.
But nobody saw him until the van was already at the tow lots.
He was a little apprehensive when we first arrived on the scene, but he quickly warmed up to us and was a pretty happy-go-lucky child.
Police were able to contact the boy's mother, who came and picked him up. But the boy's father was taken to jail, charged with child endangerment and public intoxication.
We spoke to police just a short time ago, and the father, as far as we know right now, is still in jail. The child is now with his mother, and no doubt she's watching him a little closer this evening. Could have been a lot worse, if God forbid, if something would have happened, Nick, but everything turned out for the best.
I can imagine. At this point, do you know whether or not the state's involved in looking into this?
Yes, Metro Police tells me that DCS was contacted the Department of Children's Services, and they are looking into this case. Whether or not they're going to conduct a full investigation or what follows on their end right now, we just don't know.
We'll wait and see. Thanks, Alex. In other news, a man on a stolen motorcycle was killed when he tried to run from police. A Metro officer says he stopped the man and his passenger for not wearing a helmet. The passenger then began walking away, and the man on the motorcycle took off. The officer says he chased him a short distance on Gallatin Road this morning before the motorcycle ran a red light and was hit by a car. The man riding the motorcycle was taken to the hospital where he died. The passenger left the scene and was not arrested. He had gone for a swim and never returned. Police say David Baddock was out riding in his pontoon boat in Percy Priest Lake when he anchored his boat and jumped in. They're not sure what caused him to drown, but officials say the 39-year-old from Wilson County had a history of heart and back problems. A fugitive from Oklahoma captured in Coffee County last week has escaped from jail. 43-year-old Jeffrey Jack Davis is wanted on rape and kidnapping charges. Officials say he squeezed through a fence during recreation time. Davis is described as a white man with brown hair and hazel eyes. He's 6'2", 180 pounds. If you see Davis, you're asked to please contact your local police department. Sex offenders who do not comply with the new state law will now face much tougher penalties. Beginning today, those who fail to register with the county where they live will face a felony offense rather than a misdemeanor. Now, this means stiffer jail sentences for violators. The new law is, of course, designed to help sheriff's deputies and local police keep better track of convicted sex offenders. Tonight, there is a new terror alert from the U.S. government. Homeland Security Secretary Tom Ridge says intelligence sources say terrorists are plotting car or truck bomb attacks. The targets are financial institutions in New York City, Washington, and Newark, New Jersey.
These intelligence reports have provided a level of detail that is very specific.
Now, Ridge named these following buildings as potential targets: the Citicorp building and New York Stock Exchange in New York City, the Prudential building in Newark, and the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank buildings in Washington, D.C. Bombs went off in Iraq again today, this time outside churches during Sunday services. At least 11 people were killed and dozens others were hurt when bombs exploded at 5 churches. A 6th church was targeted, but that bomb did not explode. This is the first time insurgents have targeted churches in Iraq. The controversial 10 Commandments monument that led to the ouster of Alabama's Chief Justice is now making its rounds here in Tennessee. About 75 people showed up